Well, here we are, starting to work our way into this new normal.
Oh, what fresh hell is this?
Actually, it's not so bad. Coming out of our houses, social distancing, wearing masks. Actually, I kind of like that part. I feel like a sexy bandit. Except sometimes I forget my pants.
What the hell?
The point is, we're all going to get through this. Take care of each other. Be considerate. Wash your hands. And remember, Toxic Radio is here for you. We'll rock you with the music and entertain you with the shows. We'll make it just a little easier to adjust to this weird new world.
I love you guys.
We're not going anywhere, and we appreciate you being along for the ride.
Enjoy your pants.
Oh yeah, you betcha. Remember, play life safe. Play your radio toxic. It's Toxic Radio, and 'tis the season for frightening masks, demonic voices, and men in heavy face makeup.
I'll swallow your soul.
And you might even see some people trick-or-treating, too.
Swallow this.
At Toxic Radio, we do Halloween just a little bit harder. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic.
Robert England here, a.k.a. Freddy Krueger, and you're listening to Toxic Radio. Check it out or die slow.
Hi, it's Steve Morrison from the President Steve Show, and you're listening to Toxic Radio. Get infected like you would with a cheap hooker.
What's up, everyone? This is Jeremy from Five Finger Death Punch, and you're listening to Toxic Radio. Don't play it safe, play it toxic.
Welcome to Week 3, Wire to Wire Radio. I'm your host, Gene Walzak. To my right, the man, the myth, the legend, Shally. To my left, Kent State, Cleveland's own, Cottrell Simpson. Let's get started. Obviously, we got to start with that World Series, one of the most epic World Series, 6 games. A lot of them go 7, but one of the most epic 6-game series I've ever seen. And I'm going to start with Shally, the only one that had the race. Let's get started. Go ahead, Shal.
I think we should have went 7. Kevin Cash, to my memory, made probably the biggest blunder in World Series history, in my opinion. I don't know how you have your ace on the mound, just straight dealing, top of the lineup, 6 Ks, 9 Ks through 6 innings, giving up 2 hits at that point, and you yank him. And not only do you yank him, you bring in the one reliever the Dodgers throughout the series, and Anderson actually hit pretty well. And Mookie Betts right away hits him, go up, and that's really all she wrote. I mean, you saw it on Blake Snell's face when he took him out. He cursed. He was not happy. I don't know how I just don't know how you make that move.
Tim Kirchner had a hell of a rant on that.
He did, and
Yeah.
I saw it, and I agree with everything he said. I'm old school in that facet. You can't rely on a binder or a spreadsheet or anything like that to make moves in that critical of a spot in a do or die game when you're playing for a world championship. You just can't do it. I haven't seen really any national analyst or anybody have his side or take his back. I just don't.
Well, selfishly, I'm kind of happy.
No, you are. I mean, I'm sure you are.
I'm a little selfish about it because I know some people out there might want to see a Game 7, but it would have been tonight.
World Series, you always want to see Game 7. It's like anything else. Basketball, hockey, World Series. I mean, that's the beauty of it. I mean, I know the Super Bowl is its own kind of spectacle in its own right, but it's one game.
Yeah,
Anything can happen in one
Game 7 is awesome.
Game 7, it's just every pitch, you're on the edge of your seat. It's like hockey. Like every shot that goes on goal, you're jumping. Basketball, every shot that goes up, everything matters in a Game 7. anything can happen in a Game 7.
So I thought last night was pretty interesting because it was the first like real game of the series where pitching was the determining factor. It seemed like so many other games, it was just the bats coming alive, and in that one, it was pitching, and it was the bullpen game for the Dodgers. It just seemed like, I mean, I agree with you, Bill, that you can't pull your starter there, and especially in that situation.
He's your ace.
You want to keep him out there as long as you can. Especially, I mean, you were only down, 1 run, and the Rays always come alive, like the middle of the game, towards the end of the game as well. Like, I just don't see how you pull your starter there. I'm definitely right there with you.
It would have been a little bit of an uphill battle if they win last night. I mean, they were going to get Buehler tonight. And then you would have had May and probably Kershaw available too in the bullpen behind them. They would have had a good pitcher in their own right on the mound with Morton. But it would have been. I mean, he took that away from his team. I don't know what he said in the clubhouse afterwards. He was kind of, non-committal in the press conference, saying, "This is the way we did it," so forth and so on. But he really had no answer for. I mean, Blake Snell won the Cy Young 2 years ago. Like, this isn't like your ace, but he's like an average ace. Like, the kid's a stud.
Yeah, but it's a lot of what ifs, though, Bill. Bill, you're right, and I think that anybody in America can agree that Blake Snell shouldn't have got pulled last night. But there's still a lot of what ifs, and the Tampa Bay Rays only scored 1 run, and to assume that Blake Snell would have only allowed 1 run or less than 1, shut them out the entire game, isn't really fair.
But you're playing a what if that they score.
We're saying what if the Dodgers did score.
My point is at that point,
the Dodgers did score. Who's to say that Mookie Betts? Who's to say that Seager, the third time seeing him, don't hit him?
I mean, to that same token, though, you could say if they keep Snell in the game there, what if the team is feeding off of him dealing and they're like, all right, he's pitching a hell of a game. We got to get
once
some runs
again. What
him.
if?
I know. I'm just saying that's just
the
counterpoint
fair
to what you're saying. I mean, we don't know how it was going to turn out if he would have stayed in the game. But
I just don't like the whole.
Fair. I think it's fair to say.
I just don't think I don't like the whole. The Rays would have won the game, or we would have definitely been seeing a Game 7 if they left him in.
Oh no! I mean,
and that's what everyone's saying. And like, you can't all right. So I'm gonna make a what if. What if the Titans made the field goal? It just goes to overtime. No, I mean seriously.
Right. No.
It just goes to overtime. I don't know if they still beat the Steelers, but I'm gonna cry and complain that my loss this week in the NFL was because of that. Here's one thing I will tell you. I said that Kershaw would win 2 games in that series. I said that Walker Buehler would win Game 3. And I said that look out for Julio Urias last week. That's what I said. I said Kershaw will win 2 games. I said Dodgers in 6. I said Walker Buehler will win Game 3. And I said watch out for Julio Urias. Listen, I'm wrong a lot. And you'll see on this show me be wrong. It'll happen a lot. But I was right on this one.
So I'm right there with you. I'm going to keep playing the what if game a little bit more. What if the Dodgers take Game 4? I think Kershaw gets it. Dodgers, it's over in 5, and I'm right. But, I got to give it to you. You were definitely right about this. Spot on with the World Series.
Well, that was a hell of a lead. We didn't even do that intentionally. What if the Dodgers would have won Game 4? And Game 4 is going to go down as one of the greatest World Series games ever to be played. I mean, that was an amazing game. You had your edge of your seat the entire game, back and forth. It was to Rosarena falling around third base, and then the Dodgers catcher just swimming, moving with the ball and dropping it, and the Rays ultimately winning the game. I had a lot of people on Twitter talking about it's the greatest World Series game ever played. So what I want to do is I want to ask you two what your greatest World Series game ever played was.
So for me, I mean, it's going to be the homer pick, of course. 2016, Game 7 of the World Series. The Indians lost it, but it's one of those games where, I mean, of course I'm going to remember where I was at because I was in Cleveland, but it was also like one of the best baseball games I've ever seen. Chapman was in 8th inning. He had been essentially unhittable that whole series. And for Rajai Davis to step in, we're down 2, and he hits a home run off of him. Tie the game 8-8 at that point. It was just truly unbelievable. The rain delay happened. We didn't ultimately get the win, but that game was just truly incredible. I mean, you had Kluber on the mound for us, and, he had a great year all season. Andrew Miller had lights out postseason, and everybody was just getting hit. So, you just really didn't know what was coming. And then for it to go extras in the Game 7, I mean, it was just truly one of the best World Series games I've ever seen.
You can't say that's a homer pick. That's not a homer pick. That would be like me saying that Game 6 in the '93 World Series would be one of my favorite games. That game I try to delete from my memory. I'm so shocked that you could bring that up in a reasonable light. That I still have nightmares of Joe Carter.
Joe Carter, the Joe Carter game is on my list. As painful as it was to write down, but it is. I mean, it's a walk-off home run to win a World Series. And, you know, anybody who grows up playing baseball, it's what you dream about and playing out, that you someday get to do that. You know, in your backyard playing wiffle ball by yourself. Like, that's what every kid grows up wanting to do. Unfortunately, it was against us. Obviously, 2008 for us is a homer pick, but to watch that team win and get there, get over the hump and win a World Series.
What's your greatest game? I need the greatest game because that game was amazing. That Game 4 was incredible.
That game is probably I did some research on this today and actually looked up a bunch of different lists of like different websites and everything that had these games listed. I would say it's probably going to be in the top 10. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah, it's definitely in the top 10.
The only thing that hurts it is it's a Game 4 and it doesn't have. Well, listen, I mean, you have a couple games on that list that guys hit walk-off home runs to win the World Series. The series we talked about earlier, that whole Arizona.
Oh no!
No, I'm not. No,
stealing the thunder.
I'm just saying that whole There's 3 games in that series you could pick.
I'll steal my thunder. So
I'm not going to steal yours, but I'm saying games 4 and 5 in that series were equally as good.
They're amazing, but
that might be the best World Series ever.
To get Roger Clemens on the hill versus Curt Schilling in a Game 7 and have that game go back and forth, have Alfonso Soriano hit a home run in the 8th inning to give the Yankees a 2-1 lead and put the most dominant closer of all time, in the game, up a run in the 9th inning, and to have Arizona walk that game off. That's mine. And you know, I love those low-scoring one-run games, and I love because everything matters so much more. In a 14-13 game, in a 15-14 game, like the Phillies game, the one they lost in Game 5 or Game 4, whatever it was in '93, that game, it doesn't hold as strong to me as a game where it's 2-1.
You know what's crazy about that game, though? I looked at 3 lists today, and that game's on every one of the lists.
I'm sure, but because people like hitting the ball, people like runs. But to me, I'm just giving you mine, and mine would be the 3-2 game, Schilling versus Clemens. We look back on that game and to think about Schilling, Clemens, Mariano Rivera, Soriano, Jeter, like that's an incredible. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the Yankees did they three-peat before that? I think they had 3 straight championship wins and lost their 4th straight or whatever it was. But they were the kings of baseball.
That was in the midst of the run. I mean, it was. Yeah. There was a couple other ones that I don't want to say that I forgot about, but when I saw them, like 91. Obviously, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but 91, the Kirby Puckett game against Atlanta. I loved Kirby Puckett.
I was 6.
Yeah, I was. That's what I'm saying. Yankees, obviously the Yankees D-back series. It's funny. I looked at that entire series today once because there's 3 games from that series are on everybody's list, 4, 5, and 7, everybody's list. That series is amazing, from start to finish.
I think I have a little hate of the Yankees.
I hate the Yankees,
and I think
100%.
that Diamondbacks team beating Yankees, especially like. You still loved Curt Schilling as a Phillies, like even though he left, you still loved Curt Schilling.
Well, the thing about that series was too, they were heavy underdogs. Their whole thing was they have Johnson and Schilling, but they have nobody else to pitch, and everybody's like, you're only gonna be able to pitch them twice. Those guys pitched in like 6 of the 7 games. It was crazy. There was drama in every game in that series. To get it, I know the Yankees had 2 walk-offs back to back in 4 and 5 before they went back to Arizona. That was
great series.
It was a great series. That's what you want to see out of a World Series.
Before we wrap up baseball and head to UFC, is there anything anyone else wants to say about that amazing World Series that we just watched?
It was for me. It was for Game 4, especially. As soon as ninth inning came, I'm like, I just know Jensen's gonna blow this save. Like I just felt it, and then it happened. And I'm just like, what did I just watch? Like I just knew we were gonna be in for a classic World Series. And as much as I wanted the Dodgers to win that game, so they would win Game 5, and I would ultimately be right. I wanted this series to go to 7. Of course, I didn't want it to be in the way of our show, but that series was great, and I'm kind of disappointed that it's over already.
It was such good fun baseball. Last
No, it was good. It was a good series. I thought it was going to be close. That was my big thing, mainly with you at the beginning. Your pick ended up being correct, but they were way tougher games than you would have let on.
No, see, Bill, you do this a lot, and I've watched the last few shows. Because I picked in 6 and I say the games that they're going to win, what I meant was I didn't think Clayton Kershaw was losing a game in this World Series. And I have ultimate confidence in Walker Buehler. And I was correct on those things. So all I said was I think the Dodgers will win 2, 4, or 6. I said 6 because ultimately if they won 2 or 4, then Kershaw would have been right. But I said 6, and I thought that Urias would give them a great start. Something told me Julio Urias would have a great World Series. I've been a huge fan, and I said that last week, and, man, he did not disappoint last night. 7 straight outs to win the World Series. I don't know who made the last out for Tampa Bay?
The shortstop.
What are you looking at? 2 pitches right down the middle of the plate?
The guy before him did the same thing.
That's unbelievable.
They both struck
and
out.
He knew it right away, too.
Yeah,
like, literally, as soon as the ball, like, the catcher caught it, he's like, yeah, it's over. Like, he just walked away.
Right there. But
he threw 2 fastballs down the middle to strike out the last 2 guys of the game. And that's
when you have that extra run, to play with, you can do that. And he played as if that Mookie Betts home run in the 8th was huge because when you have that, you don't throw a fastball, you don't groove a fastball down the middle of the plate if a solo home run ties the game. You don't do it.
Right.
That extra run cushion helped a ton. You got to get on before he has to be cute.
Yeah, I mean, and going out there, the last thing you want to do is walk anybody. So the last thing you want to do.
So as right as I was on the Dodgers series and as right as I was on the World Series, I couldn't have had a worse Saturday. And we'll get into UFC now. I had a terrible Saturday, guys, and I apologize to anybody that listened and followed my lead on either Gaethje, Khabib. He was unbelievable, dominant. We'll get into Khabib in a second, or Cannonier and the Whitaker Cannonier.
Which one you want to start with?
I want the Whitaker Cannonier fight was a good fight, and it was a 29-28 fight, and you can act like you picked Whitaker. You didn't. You said, I'm not saying Cannon. This is quote unquote what you said.
My exact quote was, I will not be surprised if Cannonier wins the fight. You both sat here and said he's getting knocked out in the first round. True or false?
I said second round. First of all,
you said he's getting knocked out.
Second round.
What was my rebuttal to both of you?
I said the longer the fight goes, the bigger
and I
he's in
said
trouble.
he's a very smart striker.
Yes, that's correct.
He's not going to stand there.
What your exact quote was, I listened to it multiple times, was
how did the fight play out?
Exactly how
just want to make sure.
Hedged your bet.
Just want to make sure we get
That's
it
what
on
he
the
did.
record.
He hedged his bet.
I just want to make sure we get it on the record.
I'm not saying Cannonier's not going to win the fight, and my response was, so what's he going to win by decision?
You know what you do a lot?
That was literally.
You know what you do a lot?
What?
When other people get picks exactly right, you don't like admitting it.
You didn't get it exactly right, though.
Yeah, I don't remember you saying I got Whitaker in
No,
decision.
he didn't.
I told you pre-show. I said I was going to take him, and I even described it exactly how it was going to play out. I said he was going to strike and pick his spots, and he wasn't going to take bombs.
So I'm not gonna do this what if thing with this one.
No, selective what ifs.
It was interesting to see though that Cannonier had his arm broke. The first leg kick that Whitaker threw broke his arm. I think that plays into it.
100%.
Obviously, Whitaker. I mean, that's on Whitaker. It wasn't like it was like a freak accident. Whitaker's kick, did the damage, but. I think that was part of the reason why Cannonier ultimately didn't knock him out. So I mean, I got to give Whitaker his props for that.
100%.
But I just got to throw that in there that. He was still doing all that with a broken arm, and it was a really good fight.
I'd never seen Cannonier kick so much in my life. A broken arm, but I'd never
seen
seen
throw a punch with a broken arm.
Well, so no, but great call, Shally. Great call. 2-0 on the card. Justin Gaethje, Khabib. I swore I wouldn't undersell Gaethje after what he did to Ferguson, and I really thought like he was going to be ultra prepared. His wrestling background. Khabib wrestles bears, man. That guy's unreal. And he made a claim, by a lot of people, not himself. He's very humble. Dropped the gloves in the ring, and people can argue he could be the greatest of all time in MMA. And I'll start with Cottrell. And where do you put Khabib on your greatest of all time list?
Greatest of all time list. I don't think he cracks my top 5. Just partially because I have Amanda Nunes in there. And the other reason is, for the longest of times, Khabib wasn't fighting top level fighters. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. He had Al Iaquinta in a big fight. I know it was a replacement. Al Iaquinta was a replacement in that fight, but you can't fight guys like that and be considered, to me, the greatest of all time, especially while you're in your prime. Now, if you want to make the argument that he is the most dominant while he was in his prime, I might listen to that argument a little bit, just because we saw John Jones struggle a little bit, like against DC the first fight, against Alexander Gustafsson the first fight. Khabib has really never had a fight that's been like really in question. So if you want to make that argument, I'll listen to it. But in total, like his whole career, I don't see him cracking my top 5.
Charlie?
I agree with almost everything he said. He's definitely not my top 4. I don't think he's probably my top 5. He, I believe, only has 3 title defenses. You're talking, like Contrell said, you're talking Nunes has 2 belts, defending them both, and beat, up until that point, the best woman on the planet to get it.
No, she didn't.
All right.
Holly Holm, stop. You did Ronda Rousey. We're not going to get into her.
Look, that fight's coming soon, though. So
yeah.
The Amanda Holly Holm fight's coming soon. So we can even.
Amanda already beat Holly Holm.
I know,
Destroyed
but I'm just
her.
it's gonna come back though.
They're
Holly
gonna fight again.
She just won her last fight. I'm sure she's gonna be next up.
Amanda Nunes should retire. She's got nothing else to prove, just like Khabib doesn't. And I'm going to play devil's advocate to both of you guys. I said this last week. I don't, I picked Gaethje to win. And when I go back and look at this, because we knew we were going to have this discussion about greatest of all time, and I'll argue that Khabib was. Prisoner of the moment or not, Khabib has fought 29 fights and has not been in trouble in any of them. You bring up the Al Iaquinta fight. He won that fight 50-45, 50-45, 50-45, and 49-46. He lost a round. Any fight that man has been in any trouble in, anyone can tell me. I really don't remember how many rounds he's lost in his entire career. He's dominated everyone that he's fought, and he's got a great point. What else does he have to do? Like, he can fight the people in front of him. I guess a lot of people would love to see the Khabib-Ferguson fight. Khabib pulled out 3 times due to injury. Ferguson once. So they were scheduled to fight 5 times, I think.
But the last time.
And Robert, I'm going to respond to Michael Robert Lafferty on the text board. John Jones, 15-0 in championship fights. I said this last week, and I'll say it again. I don't ever give credit to juicers. I don't do it. Sorry. Just like Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player ever to play the game, but he juiced, so he will not be on my list. He will not be in my Hall of Fame. I don't give credit to juicers. That's why he wasn't on my Mount Rushmore. So John Jones is the argument that a lot of people are making, and I won't give him that credit. I won't.
All right, so with Khabib too, he's stuck with this lightweight division for forever. A lot of people, when they have nothing else to do in a certain division, they move up, they move down. Khabib was kind of just complacent. Not saying that that's a discredit to him, because 155 is where he was comfortable at, but the GOATs, they move around. So I think that
it's a fair point. It's a very fair point. It's a very fair point. I like that point, and that the point can sway me, because I'm not sold completely on Khabib being the greatest MMA. But when I look at his career and see 29 fights,
you have to look at the 29 fights.
I mean, his last 7 fights were Michael Johnson's not a sniff. He's not a bad.
Michael Johnson's okay. He fought an unfocused Conor. Who else?
Focused. Come on. That fight had so much hype to it. Why would Conor not be focused to it?
He admitted that he wasn't.
Of course he did. He lost.
I think if you're throwing
silly.
If you're throwing Khabib into the greatest of all time conversation, then we got to throw guys like Henry Cejudo in there as well. And I don't think that he's there.
Cejudo has 2 losses.
But I mean,
he retired with 2 belts.
He beat Mighty Mouse, like the greatest flyweight of all time.
Who was the pound for pound 1 or 2 for 4 years.
My point is 29 fights and he didn't get damaged at all.
If you fight out of your 29, if you fight 23 stiffs and then you beat 6 good guys, and you have John Jones or GSP or people who are fighting.
I'll listen to GSP. I won't listen to John Jones.
Top
You know why I'm not going to pick John Jones.
Top contenders every time they go in the cage. It matters.
It does. It does.
So the thing with John Jones as well is that, okay, you say that you won't pick him because, he juiced, but at the
multiple times, not once.
At the same time, though, whoever he had a questionable fight with, he fought him again and dominated.
With a clean test.
I hope so.
Like Gustafson, he ruined that man.
He did.
Ruined him.
DC won't ever get in the octagon with him again.
Okay.
Because he knows he can't beat him.
You're right. It cried. The DC crying. The DC crying meme is one of my favorites of all time.
He cried because he literally had nowhere else to go.
How many times have you seen that DC cry? Like 3 times. Like
when it first happened, it seemed like I wouldn't stop seeing it.
It was so amazing when he cried. When Dana White told him that John Jones couldn't fight in a fight because he juiced.
Yeah.
Dude, he's had a lot of mental breakdowns in his career.
I wouldn't give him a hard time for that one. You go through a full training camp to do that, to find out you're not fighting, and
especially when you're like you have redemption on your mind. Like he was probably thinking about that since he lost.
That's an emotional journey right there. I'll give him credit for that one.
Okay. Move on. Daryl Morey. 76ers. That's next on our topic.
I hate it. I
can. Start. Give us a start,
Shall I? Can. I hate it.
Stars.
Why do you hate it?
I hate it for this. Everybody's like, oh, we upgraded, we did this and this. We brought in a guy from a team that molded a team the way he wanted to mold it, that did nothing. Everybody keeps saying, oh, he's a winner. This team's won for 3 years now. This team's made deep playoff runs before he got here. What's going to change? For all his analytics, for all his higher knowledge and all his, being ahead of the game and making the way the game is changed or the way the game is played changed, is nothing to show for it. And he got, for lack of a better term, he got pushed out of Houston. Why is that?
Control?
One, I'm going to say he got pushed out of Houston. Mike D'Antoni he was out of there. So I think they had that connection, and because he wasn't there, he's probably like, this might not be the best fit for me.
Hold on. He's the general manager.
I get that, but
again,
he wants the certain, Mike D'Antoni probably wanted the certain players, and the small ball didn't work out, and I had a feeling that if it didn't work out, he was probably going to be gone. But on that point, though, I think they had to go with the small ball. They had to go all in on small ball because they're superstars. You have to build around the superstars you have, and I don't think that Rockets team could have won with a traditional team.
But he built it that way. The small ball was his idea.
No, and I get that. But I think he built it that way because you have James Harden, which you can't trade, and you have Russell Westbrook, who you just brought in. I think with that team as constructed the way it was, you have to go all in on small ball.
So why they trade Chris Paul?
To get Russell Westbrook. It didn't work out. It didn't work out with Chris Paul to beat the Warriors.
They were a pulled hamstring away from beating the Warriors.
They were.
So they got Russell Westbrook, who they probably thought might be a little bit more dependable. He's younger than Chris Paul. He's going to have more energy.
But he can't shoot.
He can't shoot. That's why you go small ball and you get Russ to drive the lane.
That's what I'm saying. So he traded for a guy.
Pick it out to anybody.
Where your game plan is designed around shooting 72 threes a game, and you bring in a guy who can't shoot.
But everybody else around him can shoot. You don't have to have every single person on the floor be able to shoot the ball.
My point is,
if Russ can drive the ball and kick it out to somebody, they're going to be open, and you expect them to hit the shot.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
So why is everybody so excited about coming a guy here that hasn't proven anything?
But there's a lot of strategies that don't work. And so I think to that point, if you're saying that didn't work, you could say that it didn't work with the Clippers the way that they play basketball, but then you bring in Doc Rivers, and you can't like that pick because the way the Clippers did it didn't work.
You're talking about coaching versus a GM or basketball operations.
Coaches coach and players play, and GMs get players. And here's the problem that you're making, and I follow you, but the reason I like the Daryl Morey signing,
I know why you like it.
Because they need to make moves, and he's a very active GM.
He is.
Very active GM. They need to make moves.
You keep forgetting one thing. He's not the GM of this team.
He is.
He's the VP of operations.
He is. We have somebody that knows what they're doing. See, the problem with the 76ers, and I got in this rant a couple weeks ago, and I won't scream too much. Let me just calm down, Gene. Nobody in the Sixers front office had any experience in anything that they were doing. This guy has drafted talent. This guy has traded for talent. This guy has acquired talent. This guy's made great trades, unbelievable trades. yes, you can argue the Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook trade, but I can argue the fact that they were a pulled hamstring away from going to the NBA Finals and probably winning the Finals. And then we're not talking about Daryl Morey not being a winner. He can't get on the court and play. He can put the best team available that he can, and he's made unbelievable trades and made Houston relevant again. Houston was not relevant before he got there. They traded Kevin Martin for James Harden, and James Harden's career changed Daryl Morey's career. I'll argue that having someone that is bold enough to make moves will help the 76ers because they have to make moves. And he's creative enough to find ways to dump these terrible contracts. Elton Brand and not Elton Brand signed, but Al Horford and Tobias Harris, they need to go. And if Ben or JoJo have to go, Ben or JoJo have to go.
And he'll find a way to make it worth the while. Like, whatever trade he makes, he'll find a way to make it worth the while.
The one thing you're forgetting about the Harden trade that you guys are giving him so much credit for, his contract was coming up. He wanted to get paid, and he wanted to start. He was not doing that behind Durant and Westbrook.
Okay, but with
they had incentive to get rid of him.
With that Thunder team, though, they made the choice. It was either get rid of James Harden or get rid of Serge Ibaka, and they chose to keep Serge Ibaka. They could have kept James, but they would have had to get rid of Serge.
That was also about them trying to keep Durant down the road because they weren't going to be able to pay all three of them or four of them. You're not taking James Harden at that point in his career over Kevin Durant.
No, I don't think so either. But I think
and that didn't work out either because they didn't leave it.
I think they made the wrong decision, and that's a whole nother argument. I think they could have kept James Harden at least for another 1 to 2 years. I mean, their championship window was open. If James Harden is there with that team when they blow a 3-1 lead against the Warriors, I mean, who knows what happens? So I think that's more of an indictment on the Thunder and their front office.
Oh, I'm not saying he didn't do well. Daryl Morey didn't do well on his side, but you guys are acting like he just woke up and picked up the phone and fleeced Oklahoma City. That's not the case.
He did fleece Oklahoma
City. I mean, there's 29
other teams because they had to get rid of him.
So Keith made a really good comment on the message board, and he said, "Mike, can you throw that back up?" Keith Saringer's comment. How fast can they turn around personnel side? I think when you pull a free agent in the room with Doc Rivers, and I got Sam Cassell as an assistant coach, Elton Brand, Daryl Morey. It's a very powerful conversation. People want to play for those people.
Until he pulls off the miracle and gets rid of either Toby or Horford or both, we can't afford any of those free agents.
And he is going to get rid of them. I feel it.
You get rid of them, but if we're eating money, it's the same thing.
I'd get rid of them for nothing.
Even if
I'd pay someone a first-round draft pick.
If you eat the money, but your roster gets better and you have a shot to make it in
How
the
are
East,
you eating money and making your roster better if you're trading up for somebody
good? If anybody knows a way, it's going to be Daryl Morey.
That's my point. That's my point. You guys aren't addressing the issue here. If we're trading Al, but we're eating 75% of his contract that goes on our cap, we're not dragging any big-name players in here because we can't afford them.
Don't need big
neither one of you shooters. And what big shooters are you getting for cheap, bud?
So a few weeks ago,
you're not answering me.
It might have been on our first show. Danilo Gallinari is a name that I think the Sixers probably are going to target. I mean, he's going to be literally the perfect person that the Sixers need.
So that's who we're hanging our 2021 season on.
No, that's not
Danilo.
What I'm saying. But at the same time, though, you bring in Doc Rivers. You got a new coach. You got a new player. Hopefully, he finds a way to get the most out of all of his players. And I'm sure Daryl Morey is going to make more moves than just that.
Yes.
So
we'll see.
I like it.
This will be really fun to revisit.
I love it. We'll revisit it. I love it.
It'll be really fun.
We got to talk about next.
NCAA. Football. Big Ten's back. They had their first week and everything.
So as right as Bill was.
I'm definitely starting this. Before we even get into this, what are we betting this week?
I want the point spread.
Oh, no way, dude. I don't think so, bro.
I want the point spread.
Now you want the 24.5 after they got smoked?
24.5, yes.
You talked last week that they were going to come into Michigan State and beat us and
then
lose to Rutgers. Rutgers.
So just a reminder for everybody who wasn't Rutgers. Gene did say last week that he got Michigan State upset in Michigan.
What I said Penn State. And I said we're betting money on both, and you said, I got you.
I will bet money on the Penn State game, straight up. I don't care what the spread is.
Okay, done.
The Michigan State game, I'm not. And Wisconsin blew their whole season. Yes, 100%.
Back it out. Cool.
I'll buy you a beer.
On record.
But as right as Bill Shawcross was in UFC and in college football, because you want to call a beautiful Indiana upset over Penn State, even though it should have been an upset. They got robbed. Absolutely robbed.
Disagree.
Come on, stop it.
What was the score of that game with 5 minutes to go?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 2-point conversion.
I'm talking
doesn't
about the
matter.
fact that that game. If Indiana doesn't completely fall on its face for 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, that game's over.
That's part of the game, though.
Well, what? So was officiating.
The officiating, he was short.
They lost.
He was short. He was short.
At the end of the day, they did
I
lose.
showed every. That's
They
fine.
had no business winning that game.
They came back. That's what good teams do.
And Indiana went right down the field and scored.
I don't know how that the official misses that, and then with the replay review, regardless, Penn State lost the game. They should have never been in that position.
Penn State's going to be 0-2. Their season's over.
Yes, they are. I agree.
Because
and then they're going to beat Michigan and end your season. But listen,
wait.
Ohio
Can't
State
wait for that week.
Ohio State did exactly what Cottrell said they would do. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I just knew my thinking was going into that game was that both defenses weren't going to be able to tackle to start the game. I mean, they hadn't really been in live football since the end of last year, so I had a feeling that it was going to get a little ugly there to start. You know, both offenses were going to look explosive, especially with Nebraska running that read option. Justin Fields is just incredible. So I just had a feeling both offenses were going to come out strong, and then sure enough, Ohio State opened it up. I do have a little bit of worries with the Ohio State linebackers in the way that their edge rushers looked, but I think that's something that can get corrected throughout the season, and it might even be one of those things where Ryan Day is still trying to figure out who should be those edge rushers.
I think they look good. And I'm saying this honestly, as an unbiased fan, there was things in that game that happened that would concern me if I was an Ohio State fan. Nebraska's still not back. Justin Fields did Justin Fields. Justin Fields did everything we thought Justin Fields was going to do. Their running back situation is a problem. And I think their entire front seven on defense is a problem. They had trouble containing a very one-dimensional, not very good Nebraska offense for 2.5 quarters of that game. Their offense is going to put up
2.5 quarters?
Look at the stats.
14-7 at the beginning of the second quarter. It's 52-14 as final score.
You had two horrible penalties that should have been called, that totally stalled drive.
So officiating is part of the game, remember?
It is, agreed. And they made the most of their opportunities. You had the Justin Fields play on third down where his knee was down, and they went up and they got a first down. They ran up to their line real quick. That should have been called down. They would have a punt there. The following play, there's a 60-yard touchdown pass.
Justin Credible is
He's
stop
very
comparing
good.
him to Trey Lance. Can we stop that now?
Oh, yeah.
Can we stop saying that the
100%.
gap between Trey Lance and Justin Fields is closer than it is for Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields? It's not.
No, I mean
It's
they're
not.
1-2.
Yeah, they are. And
It's
the gap
not
from
close.
2 to 3 is huge.
If anything, I would say is definitely promising for them is be very hard to throw the ball on them. Very hard to throw the ball on them if they get any kind of pressure. Their secondary is very good.
It is.
And again, at the end of the day, they have Justin Fields. So I mean, they're never going to be out of a game. It was one thing that was really interesting. I was watching the college, would have been the ranking show, and everybody was saying, everybody was agreeing on the top 3 teams, and they're like, why? And everybody pretty much had the same answer. They were like, college football, you need a quarterback, and they were like, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. They're the 3 guys that are going to be there.
Mac Jones is not in the same ball field.
I'm not saying he's in the same ball field, but he's a very good quarterback on a very explosive offense. And he's better than anybody else in the top 10 or 12 that you're going to argue could make the top 4 to get there. They're the 3 best quarterbacks in college.
So you want to talk about the top 6?
Yeah, I mean, I did my list differently. I thought we were doing something different, but we can do it however you want to do it.
I want to do it who we think the 6 are going to be at the end of the season. Doing a 6 now is it's
well,
not
I mean,
fair.
it's still different because it's going to be no different than projecting the final 6 now because some teams haven't even played yet, and you have Ohio State, teams like that only have 1 game under their belt.
Way too early final 6 predictions. Troy, you want to start?
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's get it.
Way
too early.
I want to note that these aren't going to be necessarily in order. My top 4 aren't going to be in order, but my 5 and 6 are.
Okay.
So I got Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. I think the 4th team in the playoff is going to be Cincinnati. I don't see any other conference having an undefeated record and winning their conference championship game. And I think Cincinnati is going to be the last unbeaten team, and they're going to find a way to make it into the playoff. Granted, they're going to get probably slaughtered by Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State, whoever they play.
They won't be unbeaten after that game.
But I think that, they'll make it into the playoff. And then at my 5 is the other team who I think might have a shot at making the playoff is BYU. I mean, their schedule, I don't think they'll lose a game this season. So, I mean, it's just going to be who the committee thinks is a better team between BYU and Cincinnati, because undefeateds are one of those two are going to be in for me. And then at 6, I got Oklahoma State. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but I think they drop one during the season and they win their championship game. But I don't think it's enough to get them in. So those are my 6.
You want me to go, Shao? Are you still figuring out your 6, or you got it?
I can go.
All right.
I'll actually put mine in. I'll put the top 3 in order for you anyway. I'm gonna go Alabama 1. I do believe by the end of the year, if they don't lose a game by the end of the year, their strength of schedule is going to push them past Clemson. They're just going to play better teams.
I sure hope not, and I'll get into that again.
I have Clemson 2. I have Ohio State 3. I'll be honest, if Ohio State runs a table, beats Michigan, Penn State, and then probably Wisconsin, depending on what happens with their COVID situation in the championship game, they might jump Clemson too, but that's not going to change anything because you're still going to have that matchup. There's a part of me that wants to see Cincinnati in 4. My problem becomes
who loses.
They're getting smoked by whoever they play. Okay. And it's a cakewalk for the 1 seed if they get Cincinnati 4.
Whoever's 4 is getting smoked. It doesn't matter who it is.
I mean, we don't know that yet. BYU, I don't think has any shot. If BYU and Cincinnati both run the table, I don't think it's close. Cincinnati's going to get it. Notre Dame's going to lose. I have Notre Dame at 6. And I would say either Oklahoma State or Georgia are going to finish at 5. The problem with Georgia is if Georgia finishes in 5, that means they only have 1 loss. And then at that point, they probably make the college football playoff if they're the SEC champion.
1 loss Georgia should be in over, and no loss Cincinnati.
I agree.
Because Georgia would have to win the
but then we are square back to where we don't want to be.
Exactly.
You're going to have 2 SEC teams in the Final Four.
So what scares me, and this is what I'm hoping doesn't happen, is what you just said. That scares me because I think everyone in America wants to see Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence in the national championship game. I go back to years of Yankees, Red Sox, and in the ALCS, and then them running through the National League Team 4-0, and it felt like the World Series was the ALCS, Yankees, Red Sox. And I don't want Clemson, Ohio State to feel that way. And I think the best 2 teams in the country are Clemson, Ohio State. I think Bama's 3. But here's my rankings will go is Clemson 1, Alabama 2, Ohio State 3, and Ohio State beats Alabama, in my opinion. For 4, I'm going to take a team that hasn't played yet. And I think Oregon doesn't lose in the Pac-12. I don't. I think they run the table in the Pac-12, and if you run the table in the Pac-12, you're going to make the playoffs. Over Cincinnati, and I think 5 teams go undefeated, which would be, my 5th would be Cincinnati, and my 6th would be a 1-loss Oklahoma State team.
Cincinnati has a tricky matchup this weekend. They're home, but they're playing Memphis. Memphis plays no defense, don't get me wrong, but they run up and down the field. And they played twice last year, I believe. They played the last week of the regular season. The game didn't matter to Cincinnati. Memphis had a win to get into the conference championship game and play them again, and then Cincinnati beat them in the conference championship game. But Memphis is going to score. I mean, that's no pushover game. It'll be interesting.
I hope so. I hope Cincinnati loses.
Listen, I would love. You know what? I would love to have 5 or 6 teams of the year undefeated, because then that committee really has to justify their picks.
I don't want Cincinnati to go and run the table, because if they get into if they play, it's so. At least Oregon being in like a power.
Well, listen. If Oregon runs a table, they're getting in over Cincinnati.
Oh yeah.
So
we agree.
No, my point being is at least Oregon is a Power 5 conference. They have a very, very, they got a great recruiting class.
They do.
Oregon could give Clemson a game, and it could be entertaining to watch.
But you have nothing to worry about there, though.
but you have nothing to worry about. They play Cincinnati. If
No,
Clemson
my-
plays Cincinnati,
When I say that, I'm saying if Oregon
what was
runs
probably for that game?
for who?
Clemson, Cincinnati.
My guess would be somewhere around 17.
No,
I think higher.
I'm saying like 23 and a half.
Yeah,
I say.
I think
I
higher.
say. Only reason why I say
It's in the
17
20s.
is just
it's in the
because
20s all day. It probably closes at like 20 and a half.
I don't. I mean, I think Clemson is going to roll in that game, but part of the reason why I want to see Cincinnati in this playoff is because there were so many years where I felt like I wanted to see TCU in the playoff, and I wanted to see Boise State in the playoff when those teams were good. And I just want to see what the small school can do against. Granted, I think it's going to be a blowout, but I want to see what the small school can do against this Power 5 team. And we saw it a couple years ago in the Rose Bowl when Western Michigan went up against Wisconsin, and they gave Wisconsin all they could handle. I mean, that was when Western Michigan had Corey Davis still there, but they gave Wisconsin all they can handle. I get it. Wisconsin's not top 4. They weren't a top 4 team in the country that year, but I like the small school matchups going against these Power 5s, especially if they're undefeated.
I don't disagree with you. Like, I don't think anybody would argue the Boise State Oklahoma is still one of the coolest bowl games in the world.
I
to
agree.
watch.
Amazing. Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
But
you have to pick your spots real well with those games, because if you force Cincinnati in there this year and then they do go get smoked,
then
by 24,
the next
27
10 years,
points,
no matter what small school,
correct. And they go,
gotcha.
you know what? Give me one loss Georgia.
Yeah.
Give me one loss Oregon. Give me one loss somebody from a Power 5.
One loss Georgia would be a 16.5-point favorite over Cincinnati. Seriously.
I don't disagree.
Cincinnati isn't any of those
No,
TCU
it's
teams,
not.
CJ.
But it's
I
not.
appreciate that.
And I agree with that. But at the same
Horned
time, it's
Frogs.
just the small schools. I'm always going to be a big fan of them. And they got an former
What
Ohio
school did
State
you go to,
coach,
Kent
Luke
State?
Fickle. I'm always going to be with the
What-
Ohio
what
State.
school did
the
you go
Ohio
to, Control?
schools. Kent State.
I wonder why. I love it, bro.
Always gonna be with
I
the Ohio
love this
schools.
small school love that you're giving. I just want to see good football games,
Well, I mean,
especially around that time of year.
It's any college. I mean, what makes March Madness so great?
Davidson.
Exactly.
All right.
Gonzaga.
Exactly.
So to be fair to Cincinnati, I think no matter who that fourth team is, they lose by 17 plus.
I'm going to give you even a crazier bold prediction, and you're probably going to laugh, but this could happen. Be bold.
I like it.
If,
We'll talk about Tua.
Let me get me started. if Ohio State, there's nothing in me that doesn't believe they're not going to blow the doors off Penn State this weekend. Beats them convincingly. They're probably going to smash us, and they dominate whoever they play in the Big Ten. And Alabama goes unbeaten and then smashes Georgia again. Clemson's going to fall to 3.
I hope not.
I'm just telling you.
I mean, if they do, I'm okay with them falling to 3 if Ohio State's at 1, because I'm right there with you, G, and I got to see
I don't think Ohio State can pass.
State and the Clemson.
I need to see that national
championship
championship.
game.
I need it.
The Alabama bias is strong, but the problem is if you beat Georgia twice and then you play in the SEC, all your other games are SEC games, their resume is just gonna be better. It's just gonna be better.
I understand that. I'm just wishing selfishly, because what I want to watch and what I think a lot of people outside of Bama fans want to see is I want to see Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence,
and a rematch from last year. I mean,
I
we talked
know.
about it.
Oh my God, it's gonna
Chris
be amazing.
Olave, here we go with if again. Chris Olave runs the right route. I mean,
the name of this podcast is What
game.
If. It's just done. Just saying.
What if?
You don't have to worry about it later.
You want to go through our
What
picks
if?
for NCAA?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, I got my pick of the week. It's going to be an upset. One of the teams you guys had in your top 6, Oklahoma State, they go down.
Who do they have?
They got Texas this week. Sam Ehlinger, he's always going to show up to the big game. I got him upset in Oklahoma State. I think after this game, Oklahoma State runs the table. They probably win their conference championship game.
They lose, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, one loss, I don't think they get in.
No, they would need a lot of help.
But yeah, Texas, they're 3-point dogs. They're on the road, 3-point dogs. But I got them taking on Oklahoma State and getting the job done.
They're 3-point dogs on the road. That spread's telling you something. It is. If they're 3-point dogs on the road to an undefeated Oklahoma State team, that spread's telling you all you need to hear.
Listen, it's gonna be typical Big 12, and that is all the Big 12 fans. Their typical argument is, oh well, like our one-loss team is just as good as everybody else's, and it's not.
It's not.
Like they eat each other every single year. Like you'll have Oklahoma go 8-0, and then for no reason they'll lose to Texas, and they'll go win their championship game, and then they argue about getting in, and then they get in and they lose. It's the same thing over and over, and that's I hate to say it, but it's really hard to argue,
especially when they lose every year.
Yeah, exactly. It's
every year.
Your three constants right now, and again, I hate to say it, are Alabama, Clemson, and them. So it's
them.
Just
say the word. Who's your? Do you have an NCAA pick this week?
I do, and it's going to get me in trouble. I will take Ohio State and the points at Penn State.
That's fine. So I just for fun, and don't go out and bet this anybody. Seriously, I'll take the L on my record if it happens. But I'm gonna take Sparty versus whatever points they have just for fun.
It's 24.5.
I'll take 24.5. I'll take it.
God, way to jump off on a ledge there, bud.
I'm gonna take Sparty plus 24.5. 24.5 Sparty. I'll take him. NFL time?
Of course.
So, guys, if you don't know, we're now running a 90-minute show. We said it 100 times on Facebook, and it's 90 minutes now. So we have an extra 40 minutes to go over NFL and a new segment we have at the end called Are You Kidding Me? And we'll get into that.
I'm a little upset, too, that you both neglected to mention how good my boys looked on Saturday.
Oh,
it's fine.
They did.
Fine.
They did.
Fine.
I mean, they beat Minnesota.
I was watching a lot of the UFC card.
Minnesota's a good team. I didn't mean that as
Nebraska.
I mean, we beat the brakes off of them, though. I
mean, we beat the brakes off Minnesota on the road.
We did what we were supposed to do. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys at the end of the year, and we'll see who's the better team.
Calm down, fellas. Ohio State, Michigan. I told you I should have switched seats. I said Oregon, Alex. Alex on the text board said you better say Oregon.
Elmore and his Ducks.
Yeah. Well, listen, you got to give Elmore his credit.
No,
he's a fan, man.
No, he's from out there, dude.
Yeah,
That's his.
The only reason why I would root for Oregon is because I'd like to see whatever jerseys they put on for the college football.
I was literally
playoff.
just going to say that.
I would love to see the uniforms.
You know what the problem with Oregon is, though? They literally wear one sometimes, and I'm like, a blind person made these. And other ones, I'm like, I hate Oregon, and I would buy that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to transition to NFL. And we'll start off to talk about what we picked last week and do a little recap. By the way, I was 100% right on the Eagles game. 100% right. I told you guys right then and there. They did. They didn't cover, did they?
They covered.
And they shouldn't have won that game either.
I believe we both said it was going to be a close game because it's a division game, and I said they were going to win.
I said it was going to be a close game, too. I picked them to win. I just said they weren't going to cover the 4. I said be afraid of New York in that game. And if Evan Ingram catches a ball that should have been caught, thank God.
Yep, right there again.
We're on it.
If
the What If podcast starts next week, but the Eagles squeak one out, and this week they have Dallas, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's go through the 3 picks that we had last week. I'll go through mine first. As you see, I did an update on Saturday. Keep up for the live videos for updates. I have no idea that the entire Raiders offensive line would be put on COVID testing Thursday morning. I can't. On Wednesday when we're making these predictions, if anything like that happens, please look on our live Facebook. Shally, Cottrell, if you need to update a pick due to that. Also, Michael Thomas injures himself in practice. Emmanuel Sanders put on the COVID list on Thursday. I switched 2 of those games out, and it was on our live. I went 2-1 on the week, and I called it Arizona would win the game versus Seattle. They won the game outright. Arizona money line, Arizona plus 3.5. I also hit the under in the Bills-Jets game. I said exactly how many points the Jets would score. 10. And they scored 10. The Bills scored 18. So under 44 or 46. It was a no-brainer. That's 2-1 on the week in the NFL. I lost in the Titans. Goshkowski, that comeback almost happened. That comeback happens. And I really think the Titans win that football game. And I said Ben would throw them in that football game. He threw 3 picks, especially a terrible one down the stretch that you did not need to throw.
Which one? 2 of them weren't even his fault.
The one in the end zone. That was definitely his fault.
It was not his fault.
You threw the ball into double coverage and you expected the guy to come down.
It was a seam route up the middle. His wide receiver or his tight end had both hands on. You got to catch that ball. Popped out off his helmet. Dude from Tennessee catches it. That's not on Ben.
I think it was, but that's fine.
If he catches it, it's over. Game's over.
Goshkowski misses that field goal for me. Hurt my soul right here. 2-1 on the week. How'd you guys do? Shally?
I don't remember what my third pick was.
You had the Packers. That was a win.
Oh, it was. So I was technically 2-1. I took Buffalo and the points. They didn't cover. They did win the game. I took the Packers. They won. And I took the Rams to cover against Chicago on Monday night, which they did.
2-1.
It was 2-1.
So I had the Browns with the over. They hit. The Falcons game, I don't even want to get into it. I don't know how Todd Gurley, what are you doing? Matt Ryan, I just saw the video today. Matt Ryan in the huddle is telling them, get the first down and go down. And you get to the 1 yard line, you're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go down here, and you fall into the end zone. Funny enough about that game is, I don't know if you guys saw the picture, but Jamie Collins is there. Jamie, linebacker for the Lions, he's literally there like, touchdown.
Yep.
And it's the funniest thing ever that he's like
laughing.
rooting for a touchdown for the other team.
That game cost me a lot of money. So.
Yeah, so that was unbelievable, and yeah, I'm right there with you. I do not remember what my third pick was, but I was wrong on it though. I do remember that because I went 2-2. I hit on Ohio State, hit on the Browns, and then I lost the Falcons game, and then I can't remember what the last one was, but I know I lost it.
I forgot it. We can look it up on the tape. But let's go over the game of the week first. Pittsburgh versus the Titans. Pittsburgh came out like world beaters, like they normally do. Tennessee got down 14-0, like you talked about on the show, and they did come back, and they made a comeback, and they almost came back and won the football game. Ryan Tannehill didn't turn the ball over, and that's the key to Tennessee. They're going to be a very good team for a long time. Is with Mike Vrabel as their coach, Derrick Henry as their running back. They're going to play stingy defense. It sucked. I was wrong on the game. I had the Titans. Any comments on that game before we move forward?
I mean, at the end, it ended up being what we all hoped it was going to be. It got there a way that was a little bit different than we all thought it would. But it was a great game. I mean, they're arguably, I mean, they're two of the top 4 teams in the AFC. However you want to cut it. I don't think it's detrimental to Tennessee, obviously, as it is for Pittsburgh. It's a bigger win for Pittsburgh than it is a bigger loss for Tennessee. I could see Tennessee not losing a game for the rest of the year and probably still get the 2 seed, just for their division. They're not going to lose the division game.
So a couple things with the Tennessee game. Oh, the other pick was the Seahawks. It just hit me. I lost on that. Cardinals won.
A crazy ending.
That was a great game.
The thing
By the way, one of my favorite players coming out of college, Isaiah Simmons, with that beautiful pick.
It was
nickel
really
double
nice.
A, dropped back from nickel double A and intercepted a slant, a post, because it wasn't a slant, because he went up the field. He runs a 4.38. He plays linebacker. I don't care what position he's listed as. You know what a kid plays? He plays defense. That's what he plays.
The crazy thing is he's struggled this year. I mean,
they haven't really been playing him. He hasn't been able to find a rhythm. He's not consistent enough to stay on the field, and then he makes a play. I mean, it helps that Russell threw it right to him, and the wide receiver was going the other way. But I mean, it's still a great play. I mean, he went where he was supposed to go. So just getting back on to the Titans-Steelers game, 2 things about that game. One, if I was a Titans fan, I would be a little concerned. I get it. The team's incredible. But in a situation where Tannehill doesn't throw any picks and Derrick Henry he was running the ball decently, and Big Ben throws 3 picks and you still lose the game, that'd be a little concerning to me. I'm not sure what part of that would be the concerning part, but in total, I'm just looking at it like that's a game we got to win. Like if that happens in the playoffs and you lose, it's like we might have to change something around. I don't know if it's coaching or not, saying Mike Vrabel will lose his job, not saying that at all. But it's just something that you have to think about.
That was a playoff game. That's exactly what that game felt like to me. That's how playoff games end. Unfortunately, you're in the position to win it or at least tie it, force overtime, and you miss the kick. I mean, how many playoff games do we see come down to kicks?
Yeah,
happens all the time. Again, I don't put too much stock. They lost to a very good team.
No, and I get that. But if you force 3 turnovers and your quarterback doesn't throw any, and you still lose the game, that's a problem for me. I'm always a big believer that if you win the turnover battle, you should win the game. So the fact that they didn't win that game, I get it that it was close, but I mean that's a little concerning.
It says a lot about the team though. After that, Bill made a huge point that last week about the Titans winning that game over Houston, and they started the game flat. Pittsburgh jumped on them early, and that normally happens when a team wins a high emotional roller coaster game. They start games flat, and they could have quit at halftime. They were getting their butt kicked, and they came back and should have tied the game. I mean, I hate kickers. We at Wire to Wire Sports hate kickers.
Whoa, do not include me in that.
Right.
I hate kickers.
I kicked in high school. Don't include me in any kind of hatred for kickers.
No.
The other thing that I wanted to add
Justin Tucker's my man.
was that we were all wrong about who the last unbeaten team would be with that game.
Talk about epic fail.
I thought it was going to be the Seahawks. You guys thought it was going to be the Titans, and it ends up being the Steelers. So, of course, it happens like that. But with the Steelers, I mean, are they going to be unbeaten after this upcoming Sunday?
Nope. And that's a great lead. Baltimore beats them this week. Baltimore coming off a bye, playing at home. Baltimore beats them this week.
And this is to my point, kind of, and that's why I don't think that loss is as like if I'd gun to my head now, I pick Tennessee as a 2 seed right now. Baltimore and Pittsburgh still have to play another time after this. So if you're assuming Baltimore wins this week, they both have a loss. One of them at least goes to 2 losses, and then in that division, it's crazy. There's always stuff at the end. Somebody like Cleveland's going to beat one of them. It's just
not after Odell.
We'll see.
Cleveland's going to fall fast.
Speaking, I mean,
we'll get on that.
I was going to ask him about that in a second.
Let's stay on Baltimore, Pittsburgh.
I just don't think it's that big a deal with Tennessee. I think they rebound this week. They'll play well. I will tell you this: I am with those top 4 teams, and then you even throw in, and then you throw Buffalo into the mix. AFC playoffs are going to be incredible.
AFC's clearly better than the NFC.
100%.
It's not close.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I guess there's one team you could probably argue for right now, and that's about it. I think the top 3 or 4 beat every other team in the NFC handily right now.
AFC is better than the NFC.
I agree.
So Pittsburgh versus Baltimore this week. Lamar Jackson off a bye week, a little bit rested. I think that Baltimore is going to win that football game. I don't know if they cover the 4 points. They always play a close game. Justin Tucker always has something to say about the game, Mr. Kicker. But he is best greatest of all time kicker.
I agree.
It's not even close.
I agree.
But I think Baltimore wins that football game. What do you think, Trell?
I'm with you with Baltimore. It's kind of the lesser of 2 evils, I guess. And I hate Ravens and I hate Steelers, but just unbiased aside, I'm definitely going to lean towards the Ravens. That offense is incredible. I mean, the Steelers' defense is good, but when you're going up against a talent like Lamar Jackson, it's going to be tough to stop him. Like you said, coming off of a bye week, they're going to run a lot of the read option plays, and I think their outside linebackers are going to be kind of stuck. You see Bud Dupree's been having a really good year so far, TJ Watt as well, but you can't get as upfield with Lamar Jackson as you can with a lot of other quarterbacks. If you rush past Baker Mayfield, you can still get back to him and, make a play. With Lamar Jackson, if he sees any seam, he's taking off and, might be a touchdown. So I think this game is going to be high scoring. We talked a little bit about the spread earlier. It's at like 46.5. I think they blow that out the water. It's going to be a high scoring game, and I got the Ravens coming out on top.
Shally.
Pittsburgh wins.
Ooh.
Why?
Yeah, you can't just say it that way. It's a podcast. You got to explain why.
I was being bold. I was just getting my pick out there.
I like it. Be bold.
Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's playing better now. I mean, Baltimore coming off the bye scares me a little bit. Lamar has not looked as good this year as he has last year. Their defense is not as good as it was last year. I think Pittsburgh is going to be able to score. I'm going to say easily, but I think it's going to be easier for Pittsburgh to score than it's going to be for Baltimore to score.
So it's interesting that you bring up Baltimore's defense because they just fleeced the Minnesota Vikings. They got Yannick Ngakoue to go on their defense for a 5th-round pick.
Bag of Doritos.
I mean, like, what is that?
Hasn't played yet. Minnesota's 1-5. Calm down.
He hasn't played yet, but do you remember when Yannick and Calais Campbell were on the same defense in Jacksonville? They were monsters. And with
Saxonville, sir.
With
those two were on the team, they were Saxonville.
Yep. With that team, with Baltimore and John Harbaugh coaching them, they're going to be incredible together. That defense is going to see a major uplift as soon as he starts playing.
Well, it's going to be this week. We'll see. I'm sticking with Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I think it boils down to I'll give it to you the way Gene would explain it. I think that the difference between Pittsburgh's defense and Baltimore's offense is greater than the other way around.
That's fair. I love those breakdowns, though, because that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like when people compare offenses, it doesn't necessarily matter if the defense is so one. Like, yeah, that's a great breakdown. I appreciate that. I'm going to move on to the Eagles-Cowboys because it's a Sunday night football game, and I can't wait to this game. This game to me, watching you Cowboys fans crumble is amazing. And I love it. And the Eagles are terrible, and I'll say it, and the Eagles are not a good football team, and they're probably going to win the NFC East, NFC least, let's just call it like it is. But this is a game where I get to watch a Dallas Cowboy team that has, man, no heart. No heart. And I'll get into that later because they're on my list. But they have zero heart, man. That team just fell apart at Washington. They are probably going to play a third-string quarterback. And I can't wait to that game. This is the first game this season outside the 49ers. I feel extremely confident that the Eagles win.
I mean, I agree. I think the Eagles are going to win this game. The one part that kind of scares me a little bit is the fact that it's going to be a primetime game, and the Cowboys, I mean, they've been looking terrible. I think at some point they got to just be like, we're America's team. I mean, I don't think that means anything. It doesn't mean anything to me, but to them, I think they got to at some point just find something deep down. And you said they don't have any heart, and I 100% agree with you there. And you said you'll get into it later, and I'm right there with you on that as well. But I think eventually the Cowboys have to show some fight. But I don't think they get the win this week against the Eagles. If Jalen Reagor comes back, I saw Dallas Goedert was starting to practice a little bit more as well. Losing Deshaun Jackson is going to be, I mean,
it's going to mean nothing.
It's going to be
it's going to mean nothing.
It's going to be a deal, but it doesn't really matter because he hasn't played much this year anyway. And if you get Reagor back,
he hasn't
it's
played
like
much for the Eagles since he left the first time.
But yeah, I think the Eagles perform, and as long as they find a way to keep Carson Wentz protected, I think the Eagles win by 10 plus.
I think it's a very low-scoring game because I think that the strength of both football teams are on their defensive line, and the weakness of both football teams are on their offensive line. If any team has more injuries on the offensive line than the Eagles, it's Dallas. And that's so tough to say because the Eagles have lost everybody. So it's Dallas. And I think that Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Brandon Graham, and those boys are going to eat. They're going to eat, and I feel bad for that third. I don't even know his name. Third string quarter, who's?
Danucci or something?
Danucci. They got it backed up. Nathan Peterman in college.
Who posted that today?
Jeff Brown.
Jeff Brown.
Jeff
I'll give
Brown.
him credit for that. That was funny.
That's hilarious. Backed up Nathan Peterman in college. Yeah, I don't know if he's got much of a prayer in Philadelphia this Sunday. All right, so let's move on from that game then, because I have a lot to say about Dallas, and I cannot wait to get into it. So we
got to let Bill get his pick in. What do you think,
bro? No, bro. He already said the Eagles. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
This guy. Eagles by 20, and I'm serious. I think it's the first week. You're gonna. I think Reagor's definitely gonna play. I think Goddard's questionable. I don't know if Miles Sanders is gonna play.
No,
I don't think he's going to. But Reagor, Fulgham, Ward, you get Goddard and Ertz. Or Ertz is still out. I think they kill him, and I do agree with you. Defense. I think that kid is going to be a deer in headlights. Primetime game. What little fans we will have, they will be in the stadium. This is the first week, and I'm not going to get too high on it because it is Dallas, but this is the first week I think we actually look like a decent football team.
It's hard not to look like a decent football team.
I agree, but I literally I could see it being like 30-10.
One more comment about Dallas real quick before I get into later. I'm going to look right in the camera for this one. Jalen Smith is a bad football player. He's a bad football player. They gave him a contract. They think he's good. He's not. He's quit on his team. He's quit on his defense. He's quit on Mike Nolan. He's been vocal about how he doesn't like the scheme. He can't go side to side. He is a bad football player, and it took way too long to figure that out. And I'm so glad the Cowboys paid him. I'm so glad because I've watched him this year, and he's looked terrible, atrocious. Stop blaming it on Mike Nolan. Buy into the scheme or be gone. And to be honest with you, they're already cutting people. Dontario Poe's either getting traded or cut.
He got cut.
They got cut this morning.
Got cut today, yep.
They traded Everson Griffin. That team is trying to get rid of anybody with a voice. and you can't get rid of Jalen Smith because you already paid him. And I love it. I love it. I love watching Dallas lose. I love watching Dallas lose almost as much as I like watching the Eagles win. And I'll make a comment about your primetime game that you said about Dallas being a primetime, showing up for primetime. They played on Monday Night Football a week and a half ago, and they got their doors blown out by Kyler Murray, who looked awful in the first half and still blew them out. He missed every pass you could possibly miss in the first half, and they still beat him 38-10. Dallas is done. Good. Next topic.
So it's
Miles is
nice to
officially
see.
questionable, by the way.
It's nice to see you guys have so much energy because I have so many question marks, and I don't even want to go really get into this Browns Raiders game because it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things.
I'd
but
like to.
The fact that Odell Beckham Jr. is out for the season, you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy, but I don't think it matters that much to the Browns. Granted, Odell Beckham is super talented, by far was the best receiver on our team. But him and Baker Mayfield just never got a connection from the time that he got here.
It's not just Odell being out.
I look at it like this. The Browns,
I'm probably going to say the same thing you
the
are.
Browns aren't a better team without Odell Beckham Jr., but they're not a worse team either. They're just different.
They are a worse team without him.
They're not a better team without him. They're not a worse team without him. They're just
I
different.
think they're definitely a worse team without him.
And Nick Chubb being out kind of really hurts. That
Oh, yeah.
1-2, that
Now,
Thunder
Nick
and
Chubb, now
Lightning-
that hurts.
That Thunder and Lightning of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt with Odell Beckham to be able to take the top off. See, the problem with losing Odell isn't the fact that Baker's chemistry with him. It's the attention that he draws from the defense. So now Jarvis Landry's seeing the number one corner or a double team.
Yep.
So my thing
he's
with-
getting double teamed or at least rolling a safety over top of him every single play.
Mm-hmm.
If Baker can't figure out at that point how to get the ball to Jarvis Landry and all these other people when they're covering the two, when they have the second or third corner on him, now he's going to draw the one, and he's probably going to get double covered.
So my argument to that is that Baker Mayfield had his worst season before Odell Beckham was on the roster. And I don't mean to say that Baker's playing bad because Odell's been playing with the Browns, but I think a lot of the Browns schemes is them trying to force feed Odell Beckham. And, of course, you want to get your best receiver the ball. But I think Baker Mayfield kind of looks at that and he doesn't actually go through his progression. He doesn't go through his reads. He just is like,
He's not a progression quarterback. He's never been.
He's not.
He's not.
But
so it doesn't matter.
But if you know that you don't have to force feed the ball to Odell Beckham, you don't have that guy. I mean, you could say that it's Jarvis, but you're not going to force feed Jarvis. If Jarvis is open, you're going to give him the ball
now, though.
But you're not going to force it to him, though. You
Then who
had
are you gonna throw it
Donovan
to?
Peoples-Jones
Peoples-Jones?
just made the game-winning catch last week. Higgins had
there is
6
no
catches for
bigger
100-plus
fan-
yards.
There's no bigger fan of DPG than me, obviously for obvious reasons. Until that catch, what has he done this year?
Nothing. He had his first 3 catches in that game. But to that token, though, he had his first 3 catches that game, but he wasn't afraid to make a play. I mean, it was under 15 seconds left in the game, and he made a great
He
play.
has all the tools in the world. He's a stud. It is so much easier to play defense against Cleveland now without OBJ on the field.
I agree to that. But I think this is going to
Cleveland has,
elevate
like 2 defensive players in their whole roster.
I think this is going to elevate Baker Mayfield's game, though, because I don't know what it is about him mentally, but I think without OBJ on the field, he's going to be a smarter quarterback. I don't think that means that the team is better without him, but I think Baker's going to play. Baker's going to play better.
He's going to do it.
And I got the Browns being 6-2 after the game's over.
I got Raiders big.
No, I like the Raiders this week. I think that Josh
And it's in Cleveland.
I like the Raiders big.
I like.
We'll talk.
I like
about that.
Cleveland.
We'll talk about picks in a minute. Any other games we need to get into? Big games this weekend?
Not really. I mean, the Thursday night game. I mean, it's not big, but
Atlanta, Carolina.
Yeah, not
Atlanta,
big.
I don't know how Atlanta. Yeah, Des did sign. Keith, thank you on the text board. Desiree Bryant and Antonio Brown. We could talk about that. Des Bryant
I don't think
signed with.
either of them can play this week, though.
No.
Antonio
Brown's
Just
still
talking about like
suspended,
the signings. Des Bryant got signed on Baltimore's practice squad after being out of the league for 2 years. Does he contribute at all? Yes or no?
I think he's going to be an active player once the playoffs start, but I don't think he's. I think he's going to be a gimmick guy. You put him on the field and just.
I don't think he's going to be a gimmick guy. Here's what needs to happen with Dez, though. I think whenever they activate him, when they call him up from the practice squad, they have to get him involved early and make him look like a threat. Because if not, then it becomes,
he's just a regular guy.
Yeah, we'll roll whoever over there and cover him because he's no danger to us. if they can find plays to get the ball in his hands and he can show that he can still run and create space and get open and make plays, I mean, then he's a problem.
I think he's a red zone threat at best.
And you could be right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that the key with him is going to show that he can still play, the first 2 games. So teams have to game plan for him. If not, then he just becomes the 4th wide receiver that you cover with whoever when he's on the field.
With the Ravens, I mean, I guess it's a good fit because they don't really have that. I mean, besides Marquise Brown, they don't really have any other receivers who are going to just knock your socks off. I mean, they got Devin Duvernay. I mean, they don't have guys that are just.
I know why they signed him.
They signed him.
They signed him to be a red zone threat. They signed him because he's a good blocking wide receiver. He's physical. That's what the Ravens need. They're not signing him to go in there and play as a top 2 or 3 wide receiver on that team.
No, of course not.
He's going to be a good blocking wide receiver. He's going to be a red zone threat for jump balls. That you don't lose that talent that he had. He was very, very good on jump balls in Dallas. You can't just lose that.
I mean, after the torn Achilles, you might lose that. I mean, it's interesting to see how he
talking
plays.
about the physicality.
He's been off for 2 years. I mean, if you're ever going to heal, he's healed now.
No, but he just tore his Achilles last year. He signed with New Orleans. No, it was last year.
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
It was last year. He signed with New Orleans and tore his Achilles.
He signed with New Orleans 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago already.
Yeah. Years.
I don't know. I mean, do you recover?
Stat check me.
Do you recover from a? I don't know. At that age, I don't know if you recover from the torn Achilles.
I mean, you look at what happened with like Kobe, and even like look at Durant now. Like the athletes will tell you, the ACLs are so common now to fix.
Yep.
And you got guys running. I mean, other than unfortunately Billy Brancatos, but those guys recover. It's like Tommy John now. Like it's so common. It's such a common procedure. People heal quickly from it. The Achilles is the one you don't want. It's the one you never. That's the hardest one to come back from.
Mm-hmm.
2 good comments on the text board. Jeff from Dallas commented and said that Dez could be a goal line threat, but that's about it. He's not a great route runner, which is accurate.
True, he never was.
And the second comment that just came up was, will J.J. Arcega-Whiteside catch a pass this week, yes or no?
I hope they cut him.
So do I. So do I. When Alshon Jeffrey's ready, they could.
So he had a setback now.
He's always had a setback.
Pulled his calf. I don't know who's softer, him or Deshaun. I really don't know.
Quick throw in. Des Bryant did tear his Achilles 2 years ago. Almost exactly. Yeah. November 9th.
It was in October. Oh, I thought it was in October.
November.
There's a couple intriguing games.
Give me one. I love this. No notes. Let's go.
All right. Patriots at Bills. Patriots lose. They're 2-5 and probably done.
So this is what's going to happen in that game. I'm going to mark it down for you. Bill Belichick's an absolute incredible coach. That game, I'd almost tell you, I didn't pick it, but you can almost bet the under in that game. It's going to be low scoring. They're going to run the football. Cam's going to be running options all game. They're not going to throw the ball much. Buffalo's needs to stack the box. The Patriots defense will show up for that game. It's a division game. It's going to be a very, very low scoring game. It's in Buffalo, right?
It is in Buffalo.
Buffalo wins the game.
I agree.
Very close.
I mean, it's spot on. I agree. I think it's low scoring. I think the Bills win. I think Josh Allen just gets it done. He has more weapons, and they're just a better offensive team. I also do think there is something. I think Cam.
The Patriots have less weapons than the Eagles. Unbelievable.
I think. I do think there is something to Cam being hurt. He can't throw the football right now.
So I think
he's a baby.
I think it's interesting that
I'm
not even just
playing.
I'm not even just playing devil's advocate. I really think that the Patriots are this is gonna be their game where they try to turn their season around, and I think it's gonna be a high scoring game in Buffalo.
They don't have a choice. If they lose, they're done.
Cam Newton, I mean, he was throwing the football well before he had to start sitting out for the COVID protocols. So it's not like he's actually like injured physically.
Is that new thing? COVID affects your arm? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
He hasn't been playing. When he last played and he beat they got stopped against the Seahawks on the goal line. He was throwing the ball well that game, his last outing. So I think he's going to have
stop anybody.
And if there was one play call this year that was worse than our 2-point conversion call, it was that call.
They ran that same play and it worked all game. So of course Seattle knows it's coming. But I mean that's a topic for another day. But I do think that game's going to be high scoring, and I think Bill Belichick he's going to coach a gym, and they're going to find a way to get it done against Buffalo. Because Buffalo they're slouching. I don't know what it is, but they got. I mean, that game against the Jets, the fact that game was even within 8 points is a joke.
Michael Robert Lafferty just said something on the board. Better rookie quarterback this year, Burrow or Herbert?
I don't think this is close, and this is. I'm a big Joe Burrow guy, but it's Herbert.
Herbert might be playing better. Jump off Joe Burrow is a better quarterback.
Yep, 100% agree.
Jump off Joe Beasy.
Joe Burrow.
Justin Herbert's a rookie of the year in the NFL right now.
He is right now. He is. I mean, he's playing better at this moment.
I mean, his numbers are better. I don't understand. You can say he's a better quarterback when
Burrow is a better quarterback
than
Herbert.
How?
I mean, I think it's
Chargers have a better overall.
One, I don't think just because of how you play in your
offensive
first
scheme.
4 games is saying that, the other one is. I think, Herbert's numbers are better right now, but just because of the numbers they put up in their first 4 games, I don't think that means that he's better than
I think
Joe
he's
Burrow.
10 touchdowns, 1 interception in his last 4 games.
That's fair.
Burrow's a better quarterback.
We'll see what it is once teams get film on you and they can actually game plan for you. But I think Joe Burrow is the better quarterback.
Why are you acting like Cincinnati's defense or offense stinks?
No, it doesn't stink. It's just, their defense stinks, and they're always on. The offense is rarely on the field. Joe Burrow has thrown for over 300 yards, and I think 5 games, I believe he's thrown over 300 yards. And he's constantly trying to bring them back because the defense stinks. I think that the Chargers have a better offensive game plan, a better offensive scheme. I also think that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are a better 2 wide receiving core than old-ass A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd. That's just my opinion. And I follow, and both of them had hurt running backs. I think the Chargers have a better offensive line than the Cincinnati Bengals do.
I think it's really close. I don't think you can definitively say right now that Joe Burrow is definitely going to be the better quarterback.
No, I don't think you can't say that based on how they've played so far, but you can say that you think, based on what you've seen intangibles-wise, I think Joe Burrow will be the better quarterback.
I'll stick with Herbert for now.
All right, so let's get into our we doing NFL picks, or are you kidding me?
That's up to you.
I think NFL picks fit.
All right, let's do picks right now.
Talking NFL, let's do it.
You starting?
That's fine. I have no problem with that. All right, so I got the Rams. They're going to clear their 4-point favorites against the Dolphins. Tua's first start of his NFL career.
It's down 3.5 too.
I think they are going to blow the doors off the Dolphins, and they're going to welcome Tua to the NFL. It's unfortunate that this is his first game. He has to go up against Aaron Donald. But it's going to be a game where I think we see how durable he is.
It's my runner-up for Are You Kidding Me, by the way. It's my runner-up for what that franchise did to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
It's an absolute joke.
We're going to get that.
It 100% is a joke. I can't believe they did that, but this is a situation where it's baptism by fire going up against that Rams D-line. The Rams clear that you said it was at 3.5 now, so 3.5 point spread.
I got you written down.
The next game I got is the Bears against the Saints. The over-under is at 43.5. I think I got the over in that one. I don't think that the Bears defense will hold Drew Brees as much as Vegas does. And in that situation, I know the Bears defense is great, but Drew Brees, he's going to be getting his weapons back. Hopefully, Mike Thomas plays and Emmanuel Sanders plays.
I believe, is out.
Thomas still out. I mean, even with him still out,
I don't think Sanders can play either because he's COVID protocol.
I still think that.
Well, you got test positive or negative, 4 days in a row?
You got to get a couple tests back negative. But even without those guys, I think that the Saints offense, they're finally finding that rhythm even without those guys. Like last week they scored 27 on the Panthers. I think that's a game where Nick Foles might actually look like a good quarterback just because the Saints defense, they can't stop anybody. So I got the over in that one.
Okay.
And then my last game, I got the Seahawks and the 49ers. I got the under. The 49ers have looked incredible in their past couple games, especially after their skid there. And Seattle looked good against the Cardinals up until Russell Wilson started to look wavering a little bit. But
what's the over-under on that game?
53.5.
Spread? No, the over-under.
Oh, the over-under is at 53.5 points. I don't know what the spread is. But I'll take the under in that one. Those are my 3
under
for the week. Yep.
Oh, okay. I actually like that. San Francisco's kind of banged up again, too.
Yeah, they're on their 4-string running back.
Yeah, they lost Wilson again. I already said one of my picks.
Pittsburgh?
Eagles.
Oh, Eagles. I got you.
Eagles are going to cover. The other 2, I both like. I know one of them for sure is yours, so I'm going to switch it because I know you're going to take it.
No, good.
Well, no, I know. 2 of them I know for sure. I'm only going to take one. And we already talked about it. I think the Raiders go into Cleveland and win. And the other one that I know you're going to take, I'm not going to take. and I still can't believe the Tampa Bay Giants spread is only 10.5. So I'll take Tampa Bay in the points.
Tampa Tom.
Michigan.
All right, so I have the over in the Steelers-Ravens game. Historically, they play 2 games every year. One is a really high-scoring game. Normally, it's in Baltimore. One's a really low-scoring game. Normally, it's in Pittsburgh. I'll take the over in Steelers-Ravens. I will take the Raiders plus 2.5. I told you guys about these spreads a couple weeks ago. When it's minus 2.5 for the Browns, they're trying to bait in taking the Browns. I think the Raiders run the ball over the Browns. I think Josh Jacobs has a great game. I think the Raiders win that game by 7. And I have the Bears plus 4. So that's
not what I thought you were going to take. I would have took the other one, though.
That's fine. I have the Bears plus 4. I think that the Bears win the game outright. And I think that the New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees plays so much different when he's outside of New Orleans. Without Michael Thomas, without Emmanuel Sanders, I just don't see how they're going to move the ball against the most talented, not the best, most talented defense in the NFL in Chicago. So I'll take those 3 games as mine. I would urge you all to bet heavy on all 3 of them. I'm very confident, very strong on all 3 of those games. So hopefully I don't look like an ass next week when we go over them, but I like all 3 of those games a lot.
Sleeper pick for the week, I think Detroit beats Indianapolis at home.
So sleeper. What was the game you thought I was going to pick?
I thought you were going to pick that one.
Okay.
Because we talked about it last night.
We did. That spread's begging you to take Indianapolis, and I think that's trying to tell you something. But, you could worry about Detroit with the letdown.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into our new segment called Are You Kidding Me? Cottrell, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. So my first one is going to be Justin Turner this week in the Dodgers. Right before Game 6, it came out that he wasn't going to be playing, and it turns out that he tested positive for COVID-19. It's tough for me to have an opinion about this because, I understand that the World Series, you don't win the World Series every day. This might be Justin Turner's only World Series win of his career. And we don't know how his career is going to turn out. And it was a situation where Justin Turner was playing like he could have arguably been in the conversation for World Series MVP prior to Game 6. But the fact that he was on the field celebrating with his team with his mask off and he was kissing the trophy, it was just to me, it was just a bad look for baseball. And it was like, if you're going to have him on the field, why couldn't he play in the game? If he's going to be kissing the trophy and be around all these players anyway, why not have him play the game? With that said, I don't think he should have been able to play the game, and I don't think he should have been able to be on the field. Like I said, it's a tough situation because I want to be happy for him, and I want him to celebrate that moment. But you can't be thinking selfishly there. You got to think about the safety of everybody else. And Justin Turner, you got to be kidding me with that decision.
Are you kidding me? Shally.
I'm going to touch on what you just brought up with the Dolphins. Their game plan, they said all year, was they were gonna let Tua sit, make sure he was healthy, let him learn from Fitzpatrick, who everybody has said has been absolutely amazing with him through training camp, through the season, getting him up to speed. Tua publicly has come out and said, I couldn't have been put in a better situation with a better person to learn from. Fitzpatrick's had him over to dinner. Like, he's literally taken the kid under his wing and tried to make him better with the understanding that as long as he was playing well and keeping that team competitive, he was going to play. For them to pull the rug from underneath him when they're 3-3 and in the playoff hunt, to put in a kid that has not played yet, I think it's disgusting. It's disgusting message to not only send to him, but the team. Unless Tua comes out and he's something like, unless he's Herbert and Burrow right out of the gate and they keep winning games, you literally just ruin the season for everybody else on that team. That goes back to, and I know you feel the same way, that is the reason that franchise has not been able to get on track for the last 10 years.
You're absolutely right.
The personnel people, the GMs, everybody that's in charge of all these decisions has absolutely dropped the ball time after time. You have Ryan Tannehill. They gave up on him. We've talked about him a ton the last 2 weeks. Look where he is now. Somebody gave him a chance to play in a solid, stable system. It's put up numbers. I feel bad for Fitzpatrick. He stayed there. He probably could have went somewhere else. Maybe not started. Probably could have went in a better situation to maybe tag on as a backup and, maybe go win a ring somewhere else. He took money. He stayed there to play this season. At the end of the year, he could decide if he wanted to retire, whatever he was going to do, knowing full well Tua was getting the team next year. What they did to him is crazy to me. I don't know if you're any kind of veteran or anything, how you would honestly consider going to that team right now or signing with them.
If I'm the Dolphins, if I want to make that move, I make a phone call to Dallas and I try to trade Ryan Fitzpatrick to the Cowboys.
Or do right by him.
So he can do right by him. I don't even care if you get a 6th-round pick. If you want to make that move, you get anything for him and you move him to the Cowboys.
Right, you give him a shot.
That is sickening.
It is.
What they did. And, literally, they put that kid Tua in the worst possible scenario they can. People are talking because of the bye week. And you're going to put him against Aaron Donald for his first NFL game.
Yep.
That is so – and those wide receivers, that entire team, if he has a bad first half, you might ruin him.
Yep.
Because that locker room will be destroyed. That was so. I was wanting to talk about this last week, and I was so annoyed. I can't. This is why the Dolphins suck. This is why I'll be rooting against them the entire year, because that's how poorly managed that franchise is every single year. It is a joke what they did to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's my runner-up for. Are you kidding me? I haven't. Are you kidding me? That I didn't play any big D1 football or baseball or anything like that. I played sports though my entire life. And what the Dallas Cowboys did Sunday was one of the most sickening things. I hate the Cowboys, and it's great to watch them crumble. But when Jonathan Bostic takes a shot at your quarterback, a cheap shot that he got thrown out of the football game for, and nobody did nothing. Are you kidding me? That's an absolute abomination to every single person. And I don't want to hear that their backup offensive lineman Zeke is a starter in that franchise. Amari Cooper's a starter on that franchise. Michael Gallup's there. If I'm a defensive player on the bench, I'm coming off the bench. Someone needs to take a shot at him. Someone needs to take a shot at him.
I use the example. Look what happened in Baltimore 2 years or maybe 3 years ago when he played here. Went to Miami, the linebacker. Kiko. Alonzo.
Joe Flacco.
They had to keep Harbaugh from running on the field after him. That entire team was there was a brawl almost.
Yeah. That's what it should be.
Agreed.
That's sports. If someone takes a shot, that shows me how soft you are and that you're showing up to collect a paycheck. That's what you're doing. You're showing up to collect a paycheck. You're not showing up for the team. You're not showing up for the name on the front of your jersey. You're showing up for the name on the back. And the Dallas Cowboys' entire franchise, Mike McCarthy called him out after the game. Good for Mike McCarthy because the entire team's been calling him out. Are you kidding me?
How bad is the Dallas situation right now?
That's so. It's great to see.
I love it.
All right, so guys, it's 10:33. Our first 90-minute show is in the books. I'm going to ask each one of you guys for any final thoughts, and we're going to wrap up. Cottrell, give me one.
I really can't wait for next week's show when Baker Mayfield plays really well. Donovan Peoples-Jones goes off for 80-plus yards. Rashard Higgins goes for 80-plus yards.
You said goes off for 80 yards?
But, I mean,
sorry.
I'm keeping it in context here, okay?
I love it.
They have like 10, 20-yard games, on the regular, so keeping it in context. But after that, and they beat the Raiders and prove both of you guys wrong. They're 6-2. I can't wait.
Oh, so, geez, I can't believe I even Statement Games again is doing an amazing thing for all of us, all our listeners. And I've used Statement Games, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. Is we all sit around Sunday talking about what we can. Like this is gonna. I bet you Carson Wentz throws 2 touchdown passes. I bet you he doesn't. Statement Games is giving all our listeners a pick'em Pick 'em NFL games. Just pick them. Pick 10 statements. You get 10 statements correct, you get $150. StatementGames.com is one of the most fun websites that I've used. It's addictive. It's strangely addictive. I really have to stop asking Nick for more coins. But it is an incredible website that all our users can hop on, StatementGames.com, and fill out for 10 pick'ems. 10 pick'ems. You get them all right, they're going to give you $150. StatementGames.com, sponsoring Wire to Wire. Go on their website now. Click on the link. 100% free shot at $150. StatementGames.com. Bill, final thoughts?
Not sports related. Two things. Happy birthday.
Thank you, sir.
And the last thing, congratulate my sister and her husband Travis. They had a gender reveal last weekend. They're going to have a baby boy in February. Happy for both of you. Love you guys both. And I pray to God that the baby gets all my sister's athletic ability. And I'll leave it at that.
I'm not topping that one. That was great show, guys. I appreciate everybody and the people on the listening board. I got to make fun of Toxic Mike for 1 second because the call line was down. We will have it up next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll have the call line next week. And this is Wire to Wire. We're out.